college will always be there to take your money.
Always. And we say that all the time, but it always bears repeating. The one thing before we move off of this topic that I want to say is when I talk about this and I talk about the reality of these jobs, and this is the pink collar jobs, but also healthcare jobs, other jobs that, like I said, just have a high rate of people leaving them and high rate of dissatisfaction with the industry, is people say, stop saying this. You're going to scare kids away from it. And we need these people. If they get scared away from a profession by someone describing partially what that profession is going to be like, they should not be in that profession. I feel really confident saying that. If the description itself alarms them so much that it scares them away from that job, they should not have it.
Totally. This reminds me of Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. He is University of Colorado. I don't know. Yeah, I don't really watch college football anymore. And so I don't know how they're doing. I don't think they're doing very well. But he got hired on as Colorado's head football coach this year. And there was a video or an interview, it was like a 60-minute interview or something like that with them. And it showed him having a team meeting in the summer when he got hired with the team and basically saying, like, I got hired to win. And we're going to have winners on this team. I'm summing this up. The coaches here, they were not winners. And because they were not winners, they probably recruited a bunch of losers. And so the losing coaches are out, the winning coaches are in. And because they probably recruited a bunch of losers, we're probably going to get rid of a bunch of you guys. And 50% or something like that quit. And they went into the transfer system and they went to a different school.
Well, those were the losers, like, quote unquote.
That's exactly right. And he was asked about that on the 60-minute interview. He's just like, so why are you so hard on him? He's just like, look, I just said words. And he's like, if those words are going to make you quit, he's like, I don't want you on my team.
Yeah.
That's it.
The logic checks out.
Yeah. He's like, I don't want you on my team. If those things, if just words, and as you're saying, is that the description of the job and trying to show as much realities of the job and of the life outcome prior, if that's going to scare you away, you probably shouldn't be in that role.
And you definitely shouldn't buy a college degree in it to figure it out. Definitely 100,000%. The last two things about this. This is also true of animal work or science. Where I'm going to put science work in quotations. The reason is because a lot of people will say, oh, you know, my kid's going to be a scientist, blah, 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 blah. What they don't realize is a lot of these science positions, especially anything to do with marine biology or animal biology, anything like that, a lot of those jobs pay really low. I'm just going to say that out loud. So when I talk to people about this and I say, why don't you just have your kid go work in one of those industries, like go work at a fish farm, because you're going to get a very similar experience and the pay is going to be a couple $1,000s different, and people will just lose their minds over it. But that's one of those things, like, have your kid test, just go have them work somewhere near that environment or something similar to that, and then see if they actually like the work enough to go pay and be in debt to go do the work and get a few $1,000 raise, because that's about going to be the difference. And so our third point, this is the third conversation you need to have with your child before they spend 5.5 years and $100,000 on college. And that is, if this child spends this time and money, so you talking to your child, if you spend this time and money and you get this type of work, does it make sense with your other goals in life? Is it going to help you or hurt you with other goals like family, like freedom, like job flexibility, as far as scheduling goes, pets that you want to have, places that you want to live, things that you want to do in life, like travel or get really good at a hobby or anything, any project that you want to build? Like if you want to build a business and you go into debt to get this degree and you spend all this time, is it going to hinder you from doing something else that's actually your life goal? Because if your goal is to get the work, that's fine, right? If your goal is to say, I am a this, cool, great, awesome. But if your goal is something else and you think that becoming a this is what's going to help you get the goal, you need to do the math on whether or not it's going to help you get there or pull you further away from that thing.
So let me break this down or try to understand what it is that you're saying. And so what you're saying is basically they need to prioritize their goals.
Yes.
And so you need to decide what is the most important thing in your life.
Not necessarily the most important thing, but decide if there's something more important than becoming whatever the job is. So a good example, since we're talking about doctors, would be like if your goal is to have a large family, then maybe being a doctor isn't the best way to do that. If your goal is to make a lot of money, and that's the more your goal because you want to travel the world, then again, being a doctor is not the best, most effective way to do that. It's difficult for doctors to have large families because oftentimes doctors, specifically female doctors, really struggle with fertility. And that's because they spend so much time in school and their sleep schedules are disrupted. This is well documented, but it's difficult for them to have their own biological children. The reason is because they are going to sacrifice so much of their childbearing years to going to school and high stress work where they're sleep deprived. And because of that, by the time they get out of school and they're actually able to, because they're out of residency and they're now financially stable enough to actually start having children, it's difficult for them to do so. So if your goal in life as a woman is to have a large biological family, then being a physician is probably not the best way to go about doing that. That is actually going to hurt you if your goal is to have a large biological family. So you have to decide which one of those two things is priority.